Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hi and welcome to the Wolfcast. The Wolfcast is brought to you by Draw the Wolves Basketball Club and I'm your host Noel. I'm delighted to be joined on today's episode by Scottie Summersgill. Scottie is the current head coach of our ladies team. He's also a current player of our men's National League team. And Scottie is currently the head coach of the Basketball Ireland North Under 14 Academy. Scottie has also played for clubs such as Belfast Star, Star of the Sea, Oldham Athletics, Bury Wildcats and Salem 69ers. So give it a listen. Hope you enjoy. Hi Scottie, how are you today?
I'm good, Noel. How are you?
I'm good, Scottie. You know me. Trying to keep the good side out.
Aye, well, you need to get that haircut, but
Look, it's coming in. It's going in, like.
I don't know what's under your hair or your beard.
Oh well, this got a trim, so I look more presentable than I have done before. That photo is there to be shared. Maybe we'll see. We don't know. So to go back to the start of everything, and you've been asked this in several podcasts, and seems to be a theme. So, has COVID or lockdown been treating you at the moment?
Well, obviously it's getting closer to being, well, hopefully ending, but COVID has been probably a test for everyone this year. More so me as well, because of obviously mum passed away there from cancer on June the 9th. So it's been kind of a roller coaster ride since then. But, every lining, obviously you can see that everything's coming back to where we want it to be. But, it's been tough. You can't go out, you can't exercise, go into the gym, which is little things that make, a big difference,
Yeah, and I think like you're right. Like it's been make or break for a lot of people, and it's tested a lot of people. But I think in the same time, it's put things into perspective for a lot of people and made them value what they have, and being able to cast away things that were, let's say, a negative impact. It's give people that oversight and view to put their things into perspective that mean a real value to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's more indoor sports and the likes of us with basketball and everything else, with kids, it's a big part of their mentality, not just their mental side, but obviously their physical, but not just kids, but adults as well. Our outlet is basketball, and with most sports that are outside, they've been given a bigger leeway than obviously we have, so I don't think it's been fair. But hopefully come next couple of weeks or next couple of months, we're back to doing what we all love, which is play basketball.
Yeah, I think you're right in regards that it's not being dealt evenly, but look, at the end of the day, for everyone and for us most importantly, is there is that tunnel and the light is getting very, very close for us. And obviously things are a little bit differently up north for yourself. Restrictions are easing an awful lot more. Like I know you were back reffing there last weekend. Say that done you a world of good.
Yeah, it was it was kind of freaky as well, because some of the kids that obviously, probably haven't seen for a year or two, some of them are really big kids now and really strong, and it was great to see some of the kids, back playing, even though it was outside. But it was great to see them and, see how much, they were enjoying being back, which is the best thing ever,
Yeah, and, obviously being back in the environment that we all love. And as you said, right, we've seen the kids, being able to be physical and active and see their friends and enjoy the game is fantastic for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what we want. Yeah. We want to get back to that, kind of, basketball, game that we all love, but I just hope with what's happened with COVID that kids don't get set in their own ways and don't want to do basketball anymore, because that's the last thing we want, and I've heard, a couple of people say that their kids, you know, they don't want to go back, which is a shame. Do you know what I mean? And I hope that's not true and they get back to it, you know.
I think that's going to be a challenge for every sport, but I think it's a challenge for us that we need to re-engage them kids and get them kids back into basketball. And with talking to other people, like, we have this great community in basketball and we have this great social environment. And I think through that we will get a lot of the kids back. But I think for ourselves, it's going to be a challenge to get old kids, but again, obviously get new kids involved in sport and be that physical active again.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously, like you said, it's not just basketball. You know, there's a lot of range of sports that are indoors. But you know, it's not just us as well. It's the kids who, you know, rely on it. You know, the disabled kids. You know, who that's their outlet is sports indoors. You know, and you know, hopefully, you know, we can get back to that where, you know, it's like the kids in our school who I'm looking after. You know, he's busting to get back to Powerball, but you know, when you look at it from my point of view, you know, being an able body and him, you know, just, you know, you feel so sorry for him that he's had to go through all this and not go back to that little thing that makes an absolute big difference for him.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just us.
No, and I think you're right there. Like, I think we won't know the physical or more so the mental effects.
Yeah.
You know, in regards, like as you said, like the kids you deal with, or even our own kids or anybody, in regards how the lack of being isolated or not having the ability or the avenue to, you know, blow off steam, or that one little thing that you look forward to in your week, as your outlet. Or, you know, again, to come back to the community aspect, like I'm sure you see it with some of the kids you look after, you know, they've that one thing in their week that is their week, and it's seeing their friends and participating in a sport or participating in the club. I think we're not going to see the big effects for that for another while, and I think that's where we're going to be shocked.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what, you know, it's like, you know, for that 1 hour in 1 week, that's his outlet, you know, and that was obviously taken away because of obviously COVID, you know, but hopefully, you know, he can get through it, you know, and he's, you know, thank God he's, you know, he wants to get back to doing what he loves, you know, so hopefully.
Fingers crossed, and as we said, like it's looking good. So let us go right back to the very start of things. So who, what, why got you or introduced you to the game of basketball?
So I've said this on a couple of podcasts where, you know, I've gone back to, you know, how I obviously started basketball. I started at 18. I was a late comer to basketball, and it was one of my friends, Paul Cartwright. It was just coincidence. We went to an Oldham Celtics game, and we were in the stands and we were just watching this. It was just a random thing we did, and it was packed. The gym was packed, and we were loving it. And we both turned around to each other and said, you know, I want to play this game. You know what I mean? So we then kind of, you know, got into see what we could do, you know, practice wise, got into, you know, some camps during the summer, playing in camps, you know, tried to get ourselves a bit better. Ended up joining a team, I think it was about a couple of months after, called the Salem 69ers. You know, and it went from there, where we were training every day, we were practicing every day, and it was that mentality where, you know, you wanted to get better, because I played soccer, you know, so that was my sport until basketball came, and then that just overtook everything.
So you say you played soccer obviously from a young age right up till you found basketball. So what did you find as the biggest transition from obviously soccer to basketball?
See, with soccer, you're using your feet. Basketball, you're using your hands. You know, so it was kind of tricky at the beginning, but once you get used to it, you know, it kind of comes hand in hand where, you know, you're using your feet, but technically feet wise, you can be good because all the moves you're doing, you know, quick turning for soccer, you know, and then with basketball, then you're just, you're learning to shoot, you're learning to dribble, to pass, so it takes you a while to transition, but, it's something that I learned pretty quick. I was fortunate to have that where I could, I never played it in school, basketball, played every other sport, but never played basketball, so once I got that mentality that I wanted to do it, I was full on then, so it was kind of, bang, this is it, I'm going to do all this now.
Yeah, and obviously, like, knowing you for the short time I do, and I've pretty much been able to come to it's all or nothing with yourself, and you're very competitive, and it's very, if I'm doing this to the best of my ability.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can't do things half-heartedly. If you do that, then you're not pushing yourself to to your best ability, and obviously, for myself it is, if I'm doing something, I'm 100% into it, and it's like, playing, you don't want to get beat. I had that mentality where I hated losing, and coming up, you want to be the best, your best, you want to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
When everyone looks, at your size, and which really frustrates me is because they look at you and go, oh, you're not a basketball player, So that obviously that drove me. It drove me mad.
Yeah.
And then it drove me even more to, get out there and not to show people. It was to show myself. I did, like, once I joined Oldham Celtics, I trained every day, but I trained every day behind closed doors with just myself.
Yeah.
Because the only person who's going to do it is you. Yeah, you get help on the way, but if you don't put the work in, then it's not going to show. So that was the kind of mentality I had. I still have it a little bit now, even though I'm old, but I'm still that kind of person.
You still have it a lot, trust me. From seeing and working with you at the North Academy, and obviously the year we've had at National League, you still don't like to lose.
No,
you're
absolutely.
still competitive, and you still want to be the best.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same. Yeah, I'm playing National League, and I have the Masters, and the Masters is actually it's worse than playing National League, because you get battered.
Yeah.
It's great. Because they're still competitive, even though they're a bit slower. They still want to win, but at the end of it all, they're all friends, and which is good, but still hate losing.
Yeah, and like obviously with that, like you said, like the bodies might be slowing down, but the brain's still ticking and the IQ is still there, and that's what the vast majority of the game is about.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you have the IQ, then the game still comes to you. Footwork, you can still do little things, that keep people off guard, and hands and your vision. You should still have all that. So yeah, even though you might get a guard who's lightning quick, this, that, and the other, there's still ways to control him. Even though, as you well know, I don't play defense that much. But offense wise, still, if he's an American, I still want to go past him, even though I might not be quicker. I still want to go past him. You still get little ways that you can use your body.
Yeah, and obviously it's like, with your IQ and experience, it comes to just adapting your game to how you are, and obviously having that on-court experience or smartness or IQ allows you to adapt your game to the scenario and the circumstances, where a younger guard like Podge may not have developed that at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's just the role of, me and, Kieran McGregor and the older players on the team, giving them, the chance to learn from you, and giving them little tips. Podge was great last year. He constantly asked you.
Yeah.
You don't get many kids who do that. And that was great. What can I do better? What can I do this? And that's what you want. But there wasn't only just him. There was other players as well who asked you, or they will listen to you. Because of your experience, and that's what you want players to do. Because me, when I was doing it, I was exactly the same. the first American that I played with, called Hal Henderson, he took me under his wing. He was a guard, but I learned most of it from him and Sir John Alston as well. They would give you tips that, they would kick your ass in training. If you messed about, you would hear about it, but that's what you wanted. Do you know what I mean? But then when it came to games, they were on you, and they were giving you, next time do this, do that. So that's where I want to try and give back to, younger generation, if they listen.
I think that's the hard part, but obviously, like yourself from coaching, and especially at the academy, it's the players that constantly ask you questions that have that desire to be better and to better themselves. And like, as we always say at camp, like, we're always there, or academy, we're always there for you to ask questions. There's no such thing as anything. And you see the players that come to you and approach you and ask you that question, and then you see in the next session where they've just gone up that level because they've taken what you said to them on board and you've gone away and worked it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the best thing that as a coach you can get, is kids who come up to you, want to learn off you, and then in the next session they've done it, but they've added to it, so they're listening, but they're gaining that experience by listening and improving on it. And that's what you want. I mean, academy, academy's great. You see all these young kids from all different clubs. You're trying to generate a scheme where you want them to learn. But by the end of the year, you'll have wanted them to go from, say, this here all the way up to there. You know what I mean? And it's not them just to go back to their club and say, listen, we did this, we did that. It's them to learn for themselves that, they can do this. Everything's possible. If they wanted to go Irish, the Irish team, they wanted to go to Super League, everything, it's for them to get that, not ability, but obviously to get that experience, not just from me, but from themselves as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right there. So just to go back a couple of steps, so we're at teenage Scottie. We're back in England. We found this new game of basketball. We've gone our Mr. No Days Off. We're working our ass off. What ignited your passion for the game of basketball?
Learning the game, learning what I do to get better. Once I realised that, listen, I can do this, the passion started growing every day. Like you said, no days off. There wasn't any days off, because I wanted to be that person who got better, who wanted to be different. Not just the same as everyone else. Everyone sometimes says that they want to be this role model, they want to be this. Yeah, my role model was Michael Jordan. But I knew I never was going to be him. But I wanted to train like him, but in my own way. Yeah. So that was my passion. To try and get that, place where, by the end of the year, I wanted to be not here, I wanted to be up at the top, so that was kind of my passion to do that.
Okay, cool. So obviously you've played pro in England, you've played Super League here, you've played at all the top levels you can on both sides. So what's been your greatest basketball memory or greatest game you've been involved in?
Wow. There's been loads. It was actually wrecking my head just trying to think of what, the greatest game probably I've been in. There's been, like I said, there's been loads, but you know what? The greatest memory, memory I have is my first game for Oldham Celtics, where I guarded Gene Waldron, who at that time was, he was a prolific American in England and scored 20 odd points. And this was my turning point for Oldham, where I marked him, and he only scored 12 points, which was, not heard of, only because I grabbed hold of his. I wouldn't leave him at all. He wasn't getting anywhere. I was torturing him. He was hitting me. I was just, that's probably the greatest memory I have over there. Here, playing against Notre Dame was great. Up in, I think it was Antrim Forum we played them. It was a select team, that was a great, Cal McElhenney and all them. Luke Harangody was playing, and all these NBA players, future NBA players were playing, and it was just, it was just great. It was just a great atmosphere, and playing against a Division One superpower, was obviously a great memory too.
Okay, it's interesting. So obviously, if you go back to your one in England, it does show and prove that you can play defense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it stopped when I came over here.
Okay, so Gav might be interested in this, but so obviously your time in England, like you were an all-star in England. What was that experience for you, or what was that process like?
Well, when that was with Bury Wildcats, I think it was that year. That was my professional club then. Mm-hmm. That was the year, everything went right, scoring. I was scoring 20 odd points a game. It was kind of the season that, some people, kind of dream of, and that's what it was. It was just constant on fire, and it's probably one of the best seasons I had. And then to play in the All-Star game was brilliant. Alton Bird was there, and there's loads. I think I still have the leaflet of it, of the Americans that were on it, and I think there was only about 3 English players at the time. So it was amazing, and to mark Alton Bird, but to play against him and him play against me, and then at the end of the game, I think he had 20 points or something like that there, and for him to come up to me and say, future, and you did really great, meant a lot. I'm still friends with Alton now, but he was an awesome American, and he went around England for a long time, so yeah, it was a great season.
So to segue on from that, so who's been your biggest influence in the game, whether it be a coach or a player, or it could even be like talking to other people? It's some of the biggest influences for people in the game, if people that have not played, in regards like people behind the scenes or the administration staff or people that run the club.
Well, probably the biggest influence was Tom Hancock, probably at that time, my first year at Oldham Celtics. He was the one who gave me my chance. He was the one who believed, that I could do it. So he would have been a big influence on my time, during that time, sorry. He was there because I learned so much off him. I learned so much off the Americans. It was Hal Anderson and Chris Fight. Like I said, Hal took me in, and he really put me under his wing and taught me all I needed to know, to get my game better. So I would say them two. But coming over here, I think, Danny Fulton was a great. He's phenomenal. He's such a, not just a great man, but he's a great coach as well, and he knows all his stuff, and he knows what he wants out of players, but what he wants out of the team as well. So he would be up there as well.
Yeah, and like obviously just to Danny Fulton, I don't think I've ever heard a bad word against him, and obviously when you look at the lineage of the family, like I think it rings true in regards their mantra, or just how he carried himself. And obviously you're looking at CJ now in America, and I just think they're like the dynasty up north, really, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Danny was our second father. Yeah. That's honestly he was. He looked after you. We had so many. When we went on road trips, I would go with Danny. It was hilarious. It was so funny. Even if you lost a game, when he was coming back, he would still chat to you, he'd still have a laugh with you. I don't think I've laughed as much as I've been with Danny, not during games now. He could call your names during the games, but after it, he'd love you. He'd love you like a son. And that's always been Danny. I see Danny in school. you know, and there's things is, you know, what's up, Mr. Summersgill, you know, you know, and then you just kind of get that, you know, he's just, you can't say anything else, but he's awesome.
Yeah, no, I think that's something I've came across, and then obviously with Adrian as well, like, you know, and it shows like their pure commitment and passion for the game, and you just see like the work ethic. Like I've seen it from Adrian for the time I followed him. Like you just see like the attention to detail and the work that's put in.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you see it from CJ, like one kid was playing Super League at 16 and just went, as you said, from like here to here.
Absolutely.
And it was just pure work ethic.
That's it. He was in the gym every day. You know, there wasn't a time where he wasn't in the gym. You know, during PE, you know, you would see him, you know, practicing on his own in the morning, lunchtime, after school. You know, he'd always be shooting and stuff, you know. So where he is today is all built on him and his dad, and obviously Danny as well, you know, because the three of them were all involved. You know, there's not just one person, you know, so that pays tribute to the Fultons, you know.
Yeah, no, you're right. And like, I think like you can see in the couple of seasons he played Super League, you could see his evolution. Like in regards when he first came in, he was this young, shy, timid guard, but then you see in this distribution of the ball just exponentially grow. Like his vision and passing was something else, but he was also willing to go in the lane and take a bump to give a pass and to distribute it, which is something I found phenomenal to look at.
Yeah, he's just like his dad. You know, his dad was the same. You know, I think it's safe to say that his dad was a bit quicker, but the IQ set is kind of the same. You know, he just knows where the right person is. You know, what he knows what to do. He knows how to trick people. You know, so he's faulty all round. You know, so
yeah. So with that, obviously you've played at Adrian, so this might be a nice segue for it, and you might hurt some people's feelings here. So who's been your favourite teammate to play with?
Is this in England or here?
I'll take two. So I was generous to Scally, and I gave Scally two options because she claimed she had two clubs for X amount of years. So I'm willing to take two answers because you've played in two leagues.
I think my favourite teammate in England was Hal Henderson. I think he'll always be number one with John Austin as well. I know that's two, but you know, they were kind of the people that, you know, over there, you know, were great teammates. I think here, you know, teammates, you know, I've said this before, and you know, in the other podcast, that, you know, Kevin Craig was a great teammate. You know, not many people hear of him or anything else, but you know, his IQ for basketball was great. You know, he was 6'6", you know, but he would argue he was a calm person. You know, obviously, you know, with myself, you know, if he went a bit ratty, he would try and calm me down. I know. So yeah, I would say Kevin.
Okay, cool. So we've now talked about your favorite or best teammate you play with. Who's the best player you've ever played with?
Best player? Jeez, that's a tough one. The best player I've probably ever played with would be, I'd have to say Adrian would be the best player I've played with, because obviously I played with him, you know, near 15 to 20 years, you know. Even though we had some great battles in training, you know, he was still a great teammate, you know, and he's probably, you know, one of the best probably I've played with.
So with that, it seems to be something reoccurring or common that I've seen, and obviously listening to several other podcasts that I listen to when I'm very busy in work, that a lot of people's best players they've played with seem to be teammates. So obviously you've the old expression of iron sharpens iron, and knowing how you train and seeing how you've trained with a National League team, do you think like competition, you know, like two guards, like let's say the two McGrogans or So if you're up against one of the other guards, like, do you believe in training at that level makes better teams to once you've teammates pushing each other on?
Absolutely, yeah. I think we were unlucky last year to find that out. During our training sessions, the likes of Seth and me and Kieran, try and push players on, but you don't have them. You have other players as well, but you have players like that. Who want to get better, who strive to get better. Which is a great thing. I think Kieran is very, very good at that. I've known Kieran now for a couple of years. Actually, our first encounter was Premier League over here in the North, where we played, yeah. So our first game against each other, we won. Don't want to say that out loud, but, we had a good battle against each other. There was a bit of a ding-dong, but, you see the best thing, about that was after the game, during the game when we had the ding-dong, we exchanged words, and then like 2 minutes later we were shaking hands and laughing and joking, but we still went at it. There was no, like I said about games, you leave everything on the floor, and that's what we did. And since I've been to Drogheda with the National League team, that's what he does. He wants to push everyone, to their best ability, and he wants the best out of everyone, so that goes down to everyone else, so fair play to Kieran for doing that and having the motivation, obviously, to do that as well.
Yeah, and obviously for the length of time I've known Groggy, and I've been lucky enough to play with him as well and coach him, which was great fun. But he is Mr. Competitive, and he wants to win, and he drives and he pushes everybody, and he wants the best out of everybody. And he's been one of the biggest pushes, or he's been one of the big forces behind getting us to National League. Like, we talked about it years ago, and he always had it in his head. He wanted to come back to Drogheda and get us to National League and to Super League. He's been a huge driving force behind that, as well as other people and members in the club, which you can see now, like, we're there, and you can still see he just wants to push and push. And he wants the best for the club. He wants the best for the players, and he wants to get to the best himself again.
Absolutely, yeah. And, it's like the WhatsApp group we have, just today he was on we set a picture in of him working hard, fellas, fellas, I'm working hard here. Who else wants to work hard? And, who wants to push, who wants to be better, and that's what you want from a captain. You want that person to drive people, but not drive people, but drive the younger generation as well, get them to look at goal. He's a role model for us to look up to, which he is, so he's got that drive. He's an absolute torture, but he's an absolute torture in a great way, where he wants the club to go.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. Like, I think he's setting the standards, and that's the standard he wants himself to be held accountable, but he wants his teammates in the club to be held to him. If you don't have a driving force like that, I think you're in trouble. And I think we're lucky enough that we have quite a few members like that have played at a top level and want to stay at that top level and achieve them standards. And I think that's what it's about. It's about setting them standards.
Yeah, you have to set the standards high. If you don't, then you're playing catch up, and that's not what you want to do. So yeah, you've got to have them. You've got to have them standards. Not just Kieran. But Gavin, obviously, as a coach, has his standards as well. And that relays back to us as players. To keep that high level.
Yeah, and I think obviously, like, from when Gav first came in, like, he basically said, this is the plan and this is how it's going to work, and we're not going to get there by cheating or taking shortcuts. It's hard work, and this is the standard. And if you're down here, I'm sorry, but this is where you need to be. And it was very, very clear from the start, and he's not going to falter.
I think with National League, Super League, you have to have that standard. You have to have the players that want to work, want to improve, want to win. They must have the drive to win. If you lose, then, be upset about it, but learn from it and, get yourself better. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, you've definitely got to have that drive in you.
And I think we're very fortunate to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's not many clubs who have players that want that drive. You know, some go through the motions. That's not what you want. That's not what we want. You know, as a club as well. You know, Drogheda, they don't want that. Not just through senior level, but obviously through the kids as well. They want them to improve. That's the whole point of them being here is to improve with the great coaches that we have.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And like obviously, like we take the year I was with you at the North Academy, like you're nearly looking at that. The boys group that we had, like half of the boys group were from Drogheda Wolves. Like I know that was a very unique standard that we had that bunch of players, but that was through the testament of the hard work that Emer done with that group for 2 years that got them there. And again, unfortunately, with COVID, there's a lot of unfinished business because they didn't get the chance to go to Gormanstown and they didn't get the chance to, obviously, for our selection, or they didn't get the chance to go to All Ireland. So I think there's a lot of unfinished business for a lot of people out there in the country. But
absolutely, and fair play to Emer. We talked about that when I was at academy, and I think there was 13 or 14 kids who came from Drogheda. Now they came and they stuck to it, and they wanted to learn, and I think that was the biggest thing. Now all the players wanted to learn.
Oh yeah,
but there was a bit more drive from our kids at Drogheda, which was great to see. So yeah, fair play to Emer, for doing that. But like you said, there's unfinished business, but COVID has a lot to answer for because of the people that didn't get to play that year. From all clubs, we missed out on a year that they would have enjoyed. And hopefully they can move up if they're moving up. And start again, and get that drive back.
Yeah, and I think again, it's good. You're going to see the ones that want it, and they're the ones that are going to drive forward for it, and they're just going to take any opportunity that's now open to them, and they're going to run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what you want. You want them to do that and be the best that they can be.
That's it. So with this team we're currently talking about, who's the hardest working player you've played with?
In our team now?
I'll take now and I'll take your past. I'll continue with the two answer approach.
Okay, so probably the most hard working I've been with at the minute is Kieran. He's only been there a year, but he's constantly. We used to go to the gym and lift weights, go and shoot around. Normally it'd been me going, let's do this, let's do that. But kind of got into a slump, and he was the one who went, let's go, meet me here, let's do this, let's do that. So his drive was great for me and for him as well. To push each other. So that was a brilliant thing to have. Is that drive. So I would have to say it would be Kieran. Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to give me one from the past? Are you happy with that one?
See, you go through a lot of players that have the drives, and who want to drive you more. Like I've said, I think I've mentioned Hal a couple of times. He was another one that was very passionate and had the drive. So I'd say him, and I'd say Kieran.
Nice. So you may fall into this category, but I would like someone else. So who's the biggest messer or joker you've played with or worked with or coached? Or...
I'm not a messer. The biggest messer would probably be Gareth Maguire, I would say.
Okay.
He's definitely a comedian. Like when we were playing, yeah, he was definitely funny too. We played down in Killarney once, and everyone was on a high, and during the warm-ups we were all dunking, and Gareth he didn't shoot a shot, just dunk all the time. Came to tip off, and he couldn't play. He's that punctured. He had to take a 2-minute rest. Danny was going nuts. you know. So yeah, you know, and during training, he was very passionate, but he was also a messer as well.
I've said previously, I think at the right moment in time in a session or wherever it may be, like that little like joke or that little look, or it just can break the tension, but it can also just help you refocus because it can be like a reset to you in a session or a game. So I think it is very valuable.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, you know, you're supposed you have to enjoy it. You know, I think you see lots of teams. You know, you have one person or two people or three. You know that you don't have to break that. You know, seriousness, because if you don't, you know, it leads to a lot of mistakes. I feel, you know, and having that positivity, you know, and that little, you know, crack of a joke or little mess about, you know, it kind of breaks it. Coaches might not like it, but you know, for players, it's, you know, it's a release breaker.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. Like I think that's where I emphasize that it has to be at the right time, especially from the coaching point of view. Yeah. But as a player,
you know me, no, I mess most of the time. Do you know what I mean? But it's just to try and break things up and, you know, make sure we get the best out of players. Yeah, you can be serious, but you know, you also have to enjoy what you're doing.
I think you need that balance, and obviously it can bring your squad together, or it can bring your group of players together as well. Like
there's different ways of doing it. You know, you do have your, you know, in training, yeah, you can be serious and have a laugh. During games, you should do the same. You know, yeah, you're being serious, but you know, if someone makes a good basket, you know, give them a high five, or you can't do a high five now, but you can give them an elbow. You know, so, you know, it's all the little things, little silly things, you know, that sometimes can break it up.
So just to move on from that, like, so who's the toughest player or team you've played against? Because I'm sure you've faced it where you look at your fixture list and you know there's that one team that's just going to be like they're a pain in the backside.
Yeah. I said, you know, I've said this, you know, on the other podcast, and you know, and I'll say it again. Shane Coughlin was a pain in the ass. You know, pain in the ass that you know, he always used to get not the better of me all the time, but he was very crafty. You know, very good in what he did. You know, made some absolute shots that should have never have happened, which really annoyed me. I think it annoyed our team as well. You know, he beat us in a final once, you know, which was a bit heartbreaking, you know, because of how it happened. You know, free throws at the end, and he shot 2 free throws. But, you know, it's not just that, you know, he's very good as well. You know, you have to give him props, you know, because obviously, you know, he did it not just with us, he did it with all teams as well. So yeah, he was, and the same team, Blue Demons, you know, great club, pain in the ass.
But it doesn't matter who you talk to in this game. There's always either one opponent or one team that you just know you're going to be right up against it before you even tip off.
Yeah, and they were the ones as well. You know, you had a lot of teams. You know, that you could say, but they'll probably be at the top. You know, Blue Demons back in the day, yeah, they would be definitely ones that you always wanted to, you know, to beat.
Yeah,
you know, they were them.
So knowing you for the time I do, and knowing how you train, and you like to be, we'll say, communicative when you train, like you like to talk a bit.
Yeah.
So who's the biggest trash talker you've played up against?
Biggest trash talker? Who can I say would be the biggest trash talker? Here, it would be, you don't really get many trash talkers. You get the Americans who would trash talk. You know, Gabe Jackson was the biggest trash talker for our club, you know, for Star. Oh God, he never shut up. You know what I mean? Jermaine Turner can talk as well. You know, he was all serious, but he could talk stuff too. Do you know what I mean? But it was always Americans who did the trash talking, and me.
Well, like I've seen it. Like I've seen it where players who do just, it's a constant talk, and it's not even necessarily that they're talking anything at you or to you or about you. It's just they're talking to almost be distractive.
They're trying to get into your head.
Yeah.
If you get someone in your head, that they've won. Yeah. So sometimes it can encourage you, and sometimes it can get on your nerves where it'll get to you. You turn the ball over, they'll be clapping, they'll be saying something, or other times you could say, you know what, I'm not going to let you do this. I'm going to score 20 or 30 on you, and see how much trash talking you do then.
Definitely, I have to agree. Like, I think a lot of it comes down to, and I seen this poll on, I think it was the Sideline podcast. They were asking how much of the game is made up mentality wise, and I think that's fits segmented perfectly there. Like, it is a very mental game. Like, how much concentration and focus is needed, and like if you're trying to play like the way we want to play, like the high pressure game, and you're so focused on, am I rotating? Who am I jumping to? Where's my man? Where's the ball? Are we on the fast break? And then if you've someone chirping at you, just like, what? And that little walk can just, the ball can go past you.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why you just need to be conscious. Sometimes you just need to blank it out, unless you may eat and you just, want to talk back and keep it going.
Yeah. But look,
it doesn't work all the time, though.
No, but I think it is, again, it's just another level alert to the game, and it can add to the game. Like, especially as a spectator, like if you're watching teams go at each other, it's end for end, and you can see two players going at it where it's there's nothing nasty about it. It's just, the two players are having a laugh by communicating with each other, but it is part of the game, I think.
It is, yeah, and it doesn't just come from the players; it comes from the coaches as well.
What are you talking about?
Aye.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in games where the coaches have, pick him up. He's not, he's not going to score on you, or he's not going to do this, and he's not going to do that. And you kind of look at him going, "Are you for real?" And then next minute, if you score on him, you turn into the coach and telling him to shush, that kind of way. Works sometimes, but it doesn't work all the time.
But as you said, like quite rightly, you could get the player then that's like, oh yeah, okay, yes, that's fine, that's fair enough, and he'll just go down and he'll just chuck a monster dunk on someone, and he'll be like, I'm just going to keep doing that. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And if you can keep doing that, then why would you stop?
Yeah,
you might at the end of the game get a bit of aggro, but if that's the case, then you've done your job. If your coach has told you to do that, just have a wee chat in his ear or anything like that there, then, if he's only scored 4 points and he averages 15, you've done your job.
Yeah. And I think it's understanding who you're playing against, and obviously most certainly understanding the players you have and how they will cope with that. And I think you only get that by working and pushing your group of players.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what you've got to do, You've got to push players. You've got to, give them, that kind of mentality, but also leadership as well. We've talked about that, about, how you want to give to the younger players. Now, you don't want to keep talking, because, are you sending the right vibes to the younger players? Do you know what I mean? But in the same instance, you want to win. Do you know that kind of way? So kind of a catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah, and obviously for ourselves, like we seen last year, like when Gavs obviously was new to everybody and he was trying to get a feel for everybody, like when in-house, when we were able to play, we were able to scrimmage, like we went new v old, that was just so obviously Gav could see the steel that the young players had, or if they had a leader to step up in them in regards, like to basically get them together and go, look, this is what we need to do. Don't listen to them because they're going to mouth off, and they're going to push buttons, but they're pushing buttons to try and get a reaction to see how we cope with that scenario, because that's how it's going to be in National League, or that's how it's going to be if we get a tough cup draw and there's going to be a tough crowd there as well. And
that's what we did, in training. That's what we knew we were going to do, you know, and it wasn't to undermine the players, it was to make them better, you know.
Yeah.
And in some games, you know, some training games, yeah, they did, you know, they did get the better, but, you know, 90% of the time we did, didn't we? So, you know.
But again, it's that whole thing of pushing each other in training, and you know, you create them learning opportunities. You create, you know, you see that, oh, there's a chink in the armor, and that's something we need to work on, and we need to develop, and we need to improve. And how we do that is by seeing that it's there, understanding it, recognizing it, and then working on it as we go.
Absolutely. And if we don't train hard in training, you know, I always say, you know, train as if you're playing a game.
Yes.
You know, because if you don't, you know, if you're half-heartedly going in training, you're going to do the same in games. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to have that mentality that, you know, push yourself in training to breaking point, you know, only makes you a better player when it comes to games, because then you'll know, do you know what I mean, what your limitations are, and, you know, it makes you a far better player as well.
Very much so, and I would have to wholeheartedly agree with that. Like, you need to train at the intensity and level you want to play your game at. There's no point you looking to be. I've learned this from my own experiences, and it's helped me develop as a coach. I wanted to play this high tempo, high pressure, but I wasn't replicating my training. And then when we came to games, I was like, it's not switching. It wasn't there. So that was something I needed to tune into to replicate. But again, for me, that was a learning opportunity that I needed to develop and make my players better. But I also needed to go away and drastically improve my training sessions to replicate what I wanted on the court.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you know you've got to do, you know. But it's also being smart as well, you know, in knowing what you want to do. You know, you can do that high level, but you don't want to do, you know, like, you don't want to be 100 miles an hour. You want to be in control of what you're doing. You know, you want to be that team that, you know, you can go in spurts where you can go 100%, come back, you know, go back again, you know, when you need to. And that all stems from your training sessions, you know, knowing your teammates, you know, pushing your teammates, you know, your coach pushing you, you know what I mean? So that's where it all stems from.
Definitely. So with the team of coaches, so who's been the coach that's got the most out of you as a player?
Danny Fulton.
It's kind of easy, wasn't it?
Like, why it was, because I've been with him so long, you know. He was the one that, you know, gave me a chance. He was the one that pushed me. He was the one that, you know, frustrated me, but, you know, I didn't lose hope. You know, I've been through it all before, you know, in England. So, you know, I was, you know, unfortunately when Adrian left, you know, it was up to us then to kind of take over the role. And, you know, I think I captained them for, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years, you know, which is, you know, the best feeling you can do is, you know, is to captain your team.
Yeah.
You know, so I think Danny got the best out of me, give me the best, you know, and, you know, sometimes push me. Do you know what I mean? Shouted at me as well, but who doesn't?
Well, you need that in some circumstances. Like, I know obviously the game's very different now to how it was previously, but I still think there is certain moments or times when you need to give that to a player. You know, obviously that comes through knowing your players and knowing how they handle or cope with that, but it also develops in your coaching style for me.
It does. I'm more of a positive coach, you know, where, you know, I'll not shout. Do you know what I mean? To get at a player, you shout to make the player better, but you also try and give as much positivity as you can. That's my, you know, philosophy in coaching, that, you know, you try and bring players on, you give them everything, but, you know, that one time they may need a kick up the backside, and, you know, you have to do that sometimes. You don't do it to hurt them, you do it to make them better, you know. So, you know, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, and I think like you and me, like, where, like, you obviously see me coaching in the North when you were reffing our games. Like, I am very positive, but I'm not super loud or I'm not very aggressive as a coach, where you see other coaches and all they do for the game is roar and shout and holler and they're as loud as they can. But I think if you're constantly at that level and then you need to give a reaction to a player, the player's just constantly seeing that level and it's just normal to them where
you can't put a player down. I don't.
No.
That's not the way you should be doing. You know, and if you're constantly shouting, goading him, you know, that's not right. You know, some coaches do that. You know, and sometimes you get the best out of players. You know, but like I said, different coaches have different philosophies of what they want to achieve, want to do for players. You know, and you know where mine is all positivity. Some might be, it's not negative, but it's a shouting kind of positive.
Yeah, and like I think for like obviously with some of the groups of players I've worked with, like I've been able to get a reaction out of the group when my tone has changed because they know, okay, this is now serious because Noel's tone has changed and it's not, you know, these are the things we need to focus on. These are the things we need to work at. Where if my tone has changed, they know I'm looking for reaction because things are a little bit, we're against the wall and stuff. And that's how I find out I've gotten reactions from teams that I've coached in the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And just that little bit of tone might change them and go, oh, wow, you know, I think I need to step up my game, you know, or I need to do something different, you know, or if the team's down, you may have to give them a bit of a pep talk where your tone's changed. You know, sometimes it works, other times it doesn't. But you've got to have that ability to know and recognise when they need that kind of aggression.
Oh, definitely. So obviously because you're still playing, and obviously because you coach, and we'll leave your reffing bit out of the side of it. We all know my feelings on refs, and unfortunately, you know it.
I was the worst against refs ever. You ask most of the refs now, they'll tell you all about me, and now I've gone to Evan.
But look, we'll park that aside because I don't want to burn any bridges. So, what is your best attribute as a player and as a coach?
Well, I think we've just gone through with it though. You know, I think my positivity and, you know, my ability to bring players on, not just as a team, but individual. You know, that's kind of my, as I keep saying, philosophy on, you know, me being a coach. You know, you're not going to win every game, but, you know, you can improve and win other games, you know, and learning as well from losing. You know, I was really excited this obviously COVID with the women, because training they were brilliant. They were like sponges. You know, so that's what you want. You know, and they were constantly asking questions, constantly, you know, how can we do this? And, you know, I've not had that from a women's team, you know, so I was really looking forward to, you know, to giving a chance for me coaching them, you know, and this year, you know, I'll still have that chance, you know. As a player,
now be modest.
As a player, my enthusiasm, not wanting to win, you know, taking it to people as well, you know, not letting, oh, he's 6'8", you know, I'm not going to shoot, you know, I'm not going to attack him, this, that and the other. I think kids nowadays, they're scared of getting blocked. If you get blocked, you get blocked. Yeah, you know, the only way you're going to get better is if you learn from, next time, if you got blocked, what can I do next time to make sure I don't get blocked, you know? So that was my kind of mentality, you know, and learning. So, yeah.
No, and I think you're right there. And I seen a clip this week, because obviously like I do some research and I don't just try and wing it like 9 times out of 10. But a video popped up on YouTube and I was having a look, and I think it's to your testament. It was you hitting a buzzer beater against Colester.
Yeah.
The Courtside Collective had it on their page. And it was just literally, it just showed your desire to win. But it showed, as you said quite rightly, like it showed your smarts, but your willingness to go up against bigger players and hit that little corner floater.
Yeah. I even though it wasn't designed for me, it was kind of designed for the American. But you know, Fergal Toner, I basically went back door, caught it. Obviously, I had to shoot it. Lucky enough, that it did go in.
Well, look, that's what it's about. Like,
yeah, of course. Yeah. We went. We went on to win the game. Which was even better. So yeah, it's a great feeling. I've had a few of them.
Yeah, and like obviously that's what you want to live for when you're playing the game. But like obviously to go a step back, like the ladies team you have, like obviously they're a super bunch, and I know that from having the pleasure of working with them, and you have your hands full there. So obviously just for us to look forward for a little bit, like what's your future ambitions? Obviously when we get out of this whole thing, like what's your future goal?
Coaching wise?
We'll look coaching wise, and then we'll look as a player with the National League.
Well, I think coaching, I think this season is for us to prove, not just us, but to prove the league that, we can play, with the players we've got, I think they can do it, great things. I said that to them, they're a special group of girls, and I hope all of them come back. I know a few have gone, gone off, but I think from the first season, I want to try and do as best as I can with them, and to try and get them, to adapt to what I want to play, but also to see how they react, when we're put under different situations, and get them to, you obviously want, with Drogheda, I think it's kind of, the stepping stones that they want, which isn't, it's a great thing, so for me, I would love them to go, next stage, Div 1, I think it is, or, whatever, Super League. You always want to aspire to the teams to go that high. So for me, it would be, to try and get them as far as possible, that where they can achieve great things.
So, and like obviously knowing the ladies team, like I've called them this quite a lot of times, so a lot of them won't get offended. They're a great bunch of mammies. But you also have that great crop of young players coming through as well. So that's obviously exciting for you.
Yeah, and just because they're mummies doesn't mean they can't play.
Oh no, they can play.
They can play.
Yeah.
And I found that out pretty quick. That that some players can shoot, some players can rebound. Some players can do defense wise. That's their go-to thing, which is great. Now they might hack the crap out of you, but you're going to know next time when you come down, that's what you're going to get. And that's what you want, that little kind of enforcing, most teams, should have that.
Yeah, and like obviously that's through their years of playing and their experience and their smarts, and, as you said.
You have a lot of that on that team.
Yeah, and they all work their bums off. Like
I said, probably best group of girls, that I've had, that, all they want to do is learn, all they want to do is get better, and you saw that every week we had training sessions. I was so excited for the season, because I thought we could have done, a lot of great things, so hopefully this year we'll do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and again, like there's such a great environment in amongst them. Like the friendship amongst them is second to none. Like, and they all help each other, like off the court, on the court. But you can see that bond with them all. It's fantastic.
Yeah, but you know what? See, training sessions, that goes out the window.
Oh, they kill each other.
Oh, they kill each other, yeah. You know what I mean? But they'll still be friends after that, and that's what you want. You want them players to do that, and to show the younger ones too. Listen, just because you're young, don't think you're going to get anything easy.
Yeah, there's no free rides.
No free rides. No free rides.
Yeah, no, and I definitely witnessed that, and I had the pleasure of coaching them for the year, and I have to say it was one of the most enjoyable years I've had coaching.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm like I said, I've said this before, that I'm looking forward to, to great things with them, and hopefully we can, get the season back on and just show, what we're all about.
Definitely, we'll look forward to that. So obviously just to transition back to you being a player, do you have any pre-game rituals or traditions, or as I asked Scally on the last one, what is your obsession or fascination with the number 8 jersey? I know we had a discussion about this, so I want to get to the bottom of this now. Why number 8?
Okay, so I don't really have any, pre-game. I'd listen to music sometimes, or just before I leave, I'll bless myself and say to me, thank God, give us a good game. So, most of the time I would do that. But nothing else would be kind of, don't wear smelly socks or smelly underpants or anything like that there. So
hang on. But you do wear 2 pairs of socks, don't you?
I do, yeah. I've always worn 2 pair of socks. I've always worn 2 pair of socks.
Why?
It's a good question. Like, since I think I've been playing, I've always worn. I think it was because one year I had a big pair of basketball boots on, but I loved them and I wasn't changing them. So I think I wore 2 pair of socks, and I think it stemmed from there.
Okay, so that is a tradition, or it's a ritual, or it's a superstition.
Yeah. And then the reason why I chose number 8, it was in between 7 and 9. But no, I chose it because it was Al Henderson's number.
Okay.
And when he left, I kind of wanted his number to emulate him, what he'd done for my career. So yeah, it kind of stuck, and yeah, nobody gets number 8.
It's a battle, as I found out firsthand.
You well know.
Yes, I found out firsthand having this discussion. Yes.
So yeah.
So I think I might just auction that jersey now.
You've no chance, no. With living, you'll not auction it. See, when you said that last season, you're gonna get your car burnt out. Always joking.
Anna, look, you might be doing me a favour.
Oh no, come on, no.
So just to put your coaching hat back on, or use your years of experience of playing at a high level, what's the one bit of advice you would give to our younger Wolfpack members?
Never. It's strange that, because obviously the time we were growing up, I think I spent a couple of years on the bench, and players sometimes now think if they're not getting the court time, if they're not getting, the game time, or something's going on, seem to give up pretty quick. Mine would be, if one team you can't get on, don't just switch to another team. Work your ass off. Prove people wrong. I think that's a big thing for me, that, my playing, people look at, oh, he's small, he's not going to do anything, this, that, and the other. And for me, that means, oh no, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm going to make sure that you know who I am, and, do it for you. But you've also got to put the work in behind closed doors. It's not a case of one training week, you're going to get better. Hell no, you're not going to do that. So for me, it would be to, improve yourself, make yourself better, learn off anyone you can, ask questions, and improve yourself.
Well, that's cool. I think you gave a nice insight there, and I know Scally brought it up in hers because it was something that Scally had gone through. And you said it, like asking questions, like, so you were talking about being on the bench, and Scally had talked about it in the previous podcast, and she just went and asked her coach, who just happened to be Maeve. She was like, why aren't I getting minutes? And obviously Maeve gave her an answer, and that lit a fire under Scally and drove her to improve and get better, and then she started the next season.
But that's what players should do. If your coach tells you, listen, you need to improve in such and such and such, don't, moan about it. Just do it. And the only way you're going to feel better for yourself is if you do it for you, and your coach notices it and go, you listen to me, you did this, fair play to you. That's what you want out of a player. But just for yourself as well, to prove people wrong, to tell, to not give up and say, oh, I'm gonna I'm not going to do that. You know, he said this, she said that. You know, suck it up and just get on with it.
Yeah, and like I think you're right. Like obviously, you know, to be the best, you have to be the best you, and that means challenging yourself and pushing yourself. And obviously, the results will become, because by pushing yourself, you're getting out of your comfort zone and you're going to improve.
No one else is going to do it for you unless you do it for yourself.
Yeah, like obviously, if you look back to us, like at the start of last season, like when we look at broke down the new gather step rule and we looked at all the 0 steps, like you could see in the first couple of sessions players that still weren't getting it. But then you look at the next week where vast majorities were all getting it because they'd gone away and worked on it and got the understanding of it.
You know, and it wasn't just the younger group, it was the older group as well, you know, myself included. But you don't go, oh, I can't do that, I can't do this. You know, my big thing is that I think players will say is the word can't. You can do it.
Yeah.
There's no such word as you can't. There is, but in basketball, there shouldn't be, I can't do this, I can't do that. You can do it if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, and I think you need to be open-minded to look at new things and change. And obviously it goes back to us, like when we were academy, that was one word that you always used at academy was can't. We were like, throw it out, don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
and we seen the development in players in regards where we would have them one week and we would show them something, and then we get them back in the following session and they had mastered it because you knew that they just went away and worked it. And then when you see it, you know, translating over into the game.
Coach, that's what you want the players to do, you know, is to come back the next week, you know, notice that they've done it and you tell them, listen, so you can do it then. And they're going, yeah, and they laugh about it. And I'm going, well, there you go, you can do it. So don't tell me you can't when you can, you know. So as a coach, that's a great thing to see is, you know, put your players can do it.
100%. And obviously, like for me, and I'm sure it's the same for you, like we volunteer so much time, but when we see, even if it's one kid who takes on board what you said to them and comes back and shows it to you, that's your paycheck right there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If that one kid improves from low level to high, you've done your job. Do you know what I mean? You've inspired that kid. You know, you've given the help. You know that's what you're there to do. You're there to coach. You're there to give your experience and knowledge of what you went through, and pass it down. You know, and if that happens, then you know it's the best feeling as a coach.
It's unreal. Like it's so hard to describe. Like when you see a kid that you may have coached a year ago and then you see their development from when you see them next, or like even from session to session, or if you've worked on something in a couple of sessions and then it comes to game time and you see it happen in a game, you're like, yes, this is deadly.
Or, you know, like if they never made a left-handed layup, you know, and they make a left-handed layup and then they go in the game and they make the left-handed layup and they turn around to you and you're jumping around as a coach going, yeah, you can do it. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, that's kind of, you know, the best feeling that you can get.
Oh, 100%. Like that buzz or that rush, it's just, you know, you can't put a price on it because you want to get it again. Yeah,
of course you do. Yeah, you want to get it, but you want to get it with other players, you know, and you can tell them, listen, look, he did that, she did that, you know, so you can do it, you know, and then it develops. Do you know what I mean? It's like a stepping stone. Once one player does it, then hopefully the next will start falling in place.
Yeah, no, it's class and it's something great to see, and I think we're very fortunate and blessed with the amount of underage, obviously, players we have in our club and the development that we're putting in, and obviously some of the coaches we have on board. It's the future for our club is going to be phenomenal.
Absolutely, yeah, and you know, I think that dedication is all down to, you know, a few people, you know, like some Maeve and everyone else that's obviously involved behind closed doors, you know, but the amount of kids that I've seen, you know, is just, it's phenomenal, you know, for a club to have, you know, and hopefully it keeps growing and growing, you know, where we have to keep expanding, you know, and that's what you want as a club.
Yeah, no, I most definitely think the future is bright, and it's super to see. Like,
future's bright, the future's orange.
Yes. Not infringing our copyright or trademark agreements here. So to segue from that, so this is where it might get tricky for you with obviously the players and clubs you've played with. So you may need to hurt some feelings here. So I'd be happy for you to do this. pick the best 5 players you've played with.
So I think, is it 5 players including myself, or 5 players?
It's up to you.
Up to me. Well,
I want to see how you pick.
I did write this down, but you know as you forget about it. So Al Henderson will be 1. Folty will be 2. You know, I've played with Rick and Masters, but I've played with him before. He's, I've said this before. He's phenomenal. And he's a driver. So he would be in it. Javan Dupree, very underrated American, left-handed American who I've known for a long, long, long time. He played for Star. He had everything. He had game, and I don't think he gets the recognition that he deserves for being in the league for so long as an American. So he would be, that kind. He would be that as well. John Leahy as well. John Leahy would have been a great American as well. And Kevin Craig, underrated as well. See, all these underrated players, they don't get the recognition that they really should do. So he was a very, very, very good player too.
So it's a team there which you underrated, and obviously going back to Galvin's episode, he talked about Javan Dupree as well. He said he was phenomenal.
Oh, do everything. It just unorthodox left-hander, shoot the 3, shoot the 2, dunk on you. Many of the times I've seen him dunking on people that you thought, it's not going to get up there, bang. Dunked on him. Rebound, played D. Didn't moan. Not like me, but he didn't moan. He was just a gentle giant.
Okay, so that's a tough 5. So you've left yourself out, so that's a surprise.
Oh, no.
You could have been like Scally named 5, and it's like, oh, I'm not playing.
Can't be greedy.
No,
I'll be a sub.
Yeah, look, you can coach the 5.
Yeah, Jesus, no chance.
So you can go with this 2 angles, obviously, because you play and you coach. So you're down 2 points in a game. Who do you turn to hit your buzzer beater?
Are you really asking me this?
Yes.
Okay. And do you want me to answer that for you?
100%.
Do you know who it's going to be?
You.
Yes, absolutely. There's no way. If there's 5 seconds left and I'm not getting that ball, there's going to be trouble. Nobody else.
Hey, look, it's an honest answer, and that's what I'm after.
Yeah, listen, if I'm not, I might shoot a stupid shot. I'm still shooting it.
But no, look, this was all about. Obviously, you back yourself, but you back yourself because you've put the work in for so many years. So, you have a proven track record.
It might not happen this year, but it still doesn't mean I'm not going to shoot it.
Yeah, look.
You know what I mean? Have to, if you don't have, kind of faith in yourself to do that, for me, I've done it loads of times in practice where you've taken shots with 5 seconds, and you've dished the ball out, they've missed a shot, and you went, I'm not passing. And they might be the greatest shooter and miss a couple of times, but you still want that mentality of, if I'm getting the ball, I'm either driving or shooting or making something happen.
Yeah.
But nah, that's a silly question.
Look, I'm asking it to everybody, so it's not a silly question. I kind of knew going into this where that answer, that was one of the answers I could most certainly answer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
But look, if you're in the position that you play, obviously, of course, you're going to back yourself.
Oh, of course, yeah. And sometimes it just depends who's marking you too. Plenty of time, I've had a 6'6" guard on me, American, trying to, because he knew that I was going to shoot, that kind of way. So it doesn't all work out. It's how you use it. know, 2 seconds is you need a lot of screens to get it away, or you need a back door, you know, to try and get free. You know, so there's all ways and means you can get to it.
Yeah, like, and I think obviously, like for you or for players that I work with or we coach or that look at, it's about having that IQ on the floor and seeing the floor and being able to judge it. Like you take the NBA, like you look at the amount of screens that Seth Curry runs off just to get an open shot.
Yeah,
and it's not even to hit a buzzer beater.
And that's what, you know, sometimes, you know, you need is them couple of players who go, I'm going to get you open, you know, without doing an illegal screen. Yeah. And that's what we want. But also, if it doesn't get to you, you have the smartness to step out, you know, because sometimes it doesn't all work out that you're going to get the ball. So you need that kind of, you know, smarts of, you know, someone who sets the screen to flare open, and they might get it.
Most definitely. Like, and obviously, if you look at the position for us, like when we were looking at, like, let's say last year when we did get to play some friendlies, like we had the huge option of being able to throw a lob up to Lucas.
Yeah.
And obviously that's going to draw players in. That's obviously then going to hopefully make things easier for us on the outside, where, you know, we got players with the ability to shoot the outside shot, like obviously yourself, Kieran, Podge, Rob, Adam, you know, Denzel fancies himself. You know, we've so much options. But like, if you've got a big Reek or big Lucas, obviously driving to that rim, like, and it's going to crash.
Yeah, of course it is, and that's what you want. Sometimes is a 6'8", 6'10" guy. You know, if they know it's going in, then they're either going to have a double team or they're going to have to just, you know, play him up straight. And if he's got the size over him, you know, they're going to have to do something different. You know, and that leaves either us open, or you know, it leads to an open three or a slash to the basket. You know, and making sure he knows that you're going to be open.
Yeah, and I think it's about creating that. What's the best way of putting it? Like, it's almost like you're creating that scene, but it's almost a distraction for where you actually want the ball to go to.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what you need sometimes, is a player that notices where, you know, where the double team's coming from, where the person who's open. And also reading the defense as well, because sometimes it doesn't all work like that. You know, if they split, then you've got to find the open player then. You know, but it has to happen so quick though. You know, it can't just happen over like 5 seconds, because you only have 24. Do you know what I mean? So it's noticing, you know, catch the ball, look at where it's going, and then pass it out for the open three or trailer.
And then I know we've talked about it, but I think a lot of that comes back to your training and comes back to how you simulate it in training.
Yeah, and you've got to simulate things that happen in games. Your 5 seconds, your 2 seconds, you're out of bounds. You know, you've got to simulate all them. And, you know, that's why I said about, you know, people, you know, during training, making sure they train like it's a game, you know, because that's the only way you're going to get them scenarios. You probably get 1 or 2 a season. You may get more.
Yeah.
But if you've trained for it, you know, at least you know then, you know, where the different options are.
Most definitely. And I think it's all about creating that muscle memory, because you've drilled it so much that it just becomes second nature. And the scenario of being, you know, down 2 points or 5 seconds just becomes automated in regards to.
But you don't want to be a robot as well, you know, because not everything obviously plans out, you know, the way you want to do, you know. So you always have to have that kind of backup plan, you know, where, say for instance, I'm setting a pick, but I've noticed, you know, that he slipped the screen and the other guy's gone with him, so that leaves me open.
Yeah.
You know, but that obviously means then the guy who's passing it has to recognise that too. You know, so they're all different scenarios that you can do during training to get you into them game situations. Most
definitely, and obviously it's exciting for us to work on, and obviously with the vast talent of players we have at National League, it's super exciting. But obviously throughout the club, you know, hopefully when we get back to having people in attendance, like when they see that level of basketball, it's going to spur them on even more.
That's right, yeah, and that's what you want the kids. You want the kids to come to senior games and see how, you know, the senior players, put that into practice, and they've got to see all that, and that inspires them, to inspirations of what they want to be or where they want to go in a basketball, scenario.
Most definitely. So just to end it off and round it off, who would you like to see next on the Wolfcast?
Kieran.
Groggy. Right. I will reach out to Groggy. We may need to send some IT support around to Groggy to get it set up, but
I know.
I'll get it in the works.
No problem.
Cheers, Scottie. Thanks very much for joining me.
Take care.
So there you have it. What a fantastic episode with Scottie. I was delighted to be joined by Scottie and have a catch up and a chat with Scottie. Talk about his past, his present and his future. Again, please remember to like, rate and subscribe to the Wolfcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify and YouTube. Stay tuned for coming episodes.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.